I want to bring in now foreign policy commentator Collins Nweke. He's in Brussels to discuss this. Collins, great to have you on the show. And I'm sure that you're just as keen to know whether American trade with Africa will diminish or increase under the U.S. president. So let me ask you straight. Do you think AGOA will be one of the casualties of Trump's isolationist policies?
Thank you, Amarachi, for having me. Always a pleasure. Well, it is inevitable that indeed the reforms that President Trump is instituting, one of which is, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, is going to have impact not only on Africa, but also on United States of America itself. Now, you did mention South Africa in your intro. Yes, the impact is actually going to be moderate on South Africa because a recent study that was released actually indicated that the impact on the GDP of South Africa is going to be somewhere around 0.06%. Now, on some specific, sectors, for instance, agriculture, yes, it will have, huge impact. But of course, it's going to be compensated by South Africa's diversification, because they are not exporting only to United States of America. We also have to understand that the AGOA does not, affect, for instance, automotive industry, because, agriculture is the one that it impacts. So, yes, I think that the impact is going to go round. It will affect United States of America, but it will also affect Africa in significant ways.
So the AGOA Act is supposed to be renewed, I think it's in September this year. And, with the way Trump is going, pulling the U.S. out of a number of international agreements, right now he's focused on Europe, trying to get them to face the war on the continent, which is the war in Ukraine. He's trying to rule out every distraction to his government at this time. These are things he had said before he came into office as president. Do you think AGOA will be done away with by this U.S. administration?
Well, what we have seen, from Donald Trump's action so far, and of course in his first coming as president, is the fact that his foreign policy approach is unconventional, rather unorthodox. But you see, at the heart of every foreign policy, be it that of Trump or other U.S. president, or indeed any democracy in the world, is that foreign policy is a tool for national and security interests. Now, the difference between Trump and other presidents, be it United States or other parts of the world, actually has to do with the individual president's political leaning and to some extent his, or her, character. Now, in the case of Donald Trump, what we are seeing is that he is not interested in bilateral or multilateralism. He is much more interested in reciprocal kind of relationship whereby AGOA at the moment is seen to be benefiting only the African countries, but not quite United States of America. So he wants to see a give and take sort of relationship. And so, it could well be that, yes, they will meet, each other somewhere in the middle. It could also be that other countries, Europe, for other continents or countries within Europe, take advantage of the end of AGOA or potential end of AGOA, because we still have to see what happens in September, to boost their trade relations with Africa, and so leaving America in this instance high and dry.
So one of the purposes of AGOA is to assist economies of sub-Saharan Africa and to improve economic relations between the United States and the region. We're talking about South Africa today because of, what the Trump administration said last week over those policies by the South African government to retrieve, there's something they call it, forgot the name now, retrieve lands from white farmers and give them over to black farmers. I'm sure that's not what it is exactly, because I think I've heard South African media explain it as this would be land that is fertile, that is not in use, that has been lying dormant for a number of years. So it's not particularly seizing lands from white farmers. It is really taking land that has not been used and then, repurposing it for the government and to people who could use it better. But the purpose, this is basically the main U.S. foreign policy towards Africa that really ties both the continent to the United States. Trade is one of the biggest policies that, both sides can ever leverage on. Why would Trump want to hurt that?
Well, he hasn't hurt it yet. He has made announcements. It could very well be a threat. It could be, because we've seen this happen with Trump in the past, that, he makes a statement to shake the table, and by doing that, he kind of plants fear in the eyes of the negotiating power, by which strategy he tries to strengthen his negotiating position, and ultimately they find a common ground. So this might be more of a strategy rather than actually meaning to put an end to AGOA, because the key question here is it's going to affect prices in America. It's going to lead to job losses in the United States of America, and then a very serious supply chain disruption, not only globally but also in the United States. So somehow, what is missing from importation from Africa would have to be filled up from somewhere, and where exactly, neither Trump himself nor his advisors know at this moment. So essentially, I believe that there will be a negotiated settlement here. From what we have heard, the South African president Ramaphosa, talk about. He would not have America or any country for that matter intimidate South Africa, because, as you know, Amarachi, we are talking about BRICS. Russia, Turkey, and the rest of them are making very strong incursion into Africa, presenting America a run for its money. So you ask yourself, under this circumstance, is that when America should be, withdrawing rather than boosting trade with some of these African countries and the rest of the world?
So I wish you'd talk a bit more, about what opportunities this leaves for Europe, for European countries. I know the Belgian authorities, where you are trying to make some inroads into Africa with holding, business summits. I think there's a business summit coming up, I'm not sure now, sometime in Belgium. What is the opportunity that this leaves for countries like Belgium?
I'm happy you asked that question, Amarachi, because obviously, African businesses are very much, have been very much unaware of opportunities, trade and investment opportunities out here in Belgium and Luxembourg. So what we have tried to do within, the Nigeria-Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum, and this has been ongoing for the past 3 years, is creating opportunity for businesses in Nigeria and those out here in Belgium and Luxembourg to interface. And by doing that, they are discovering themselves. And it is no surprise that, about a week or two ago, the, executives of Nigeria Export Promotion Council actually announced that in 2024, over the growth in non-oil exports, in Nigeria is about, as a matter of fact, more than 20%. Now, this is down to some of these, arrangements that have been made, trade facilitation process. And like you mentioned, there's going to be a business forum that will take place out here in Brussels in October. Preparatory to that, in April, we're going to be in town in Lagos and Abuja to actually, mobilize support and interest for the trade. So you see, what that means essentially is that as we are doing that, other European countries are doing similar things, thereby, diversifying the market, creating opportunities for Nigerian businesses. And so it is an easy walkover when AGOA stalls, because that door closes, other doors in Europe and elsewhere opens for Nigerian and African businesses.
Collins, thank you so much for explaining this and breaking it down for us on The World Today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.